Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us here. This was this is our third straight pitch session that we've had over this month alone, and which is quite exciting and good to see. Two things: one is interest from really serious blockchain projects for India, and adoption from Indian developers across this field, be it enterprise startups and developers and students mainly who are coming and building quite interesting projects. On the panel with me here is Henri, the co-founder of Streamr, Rajat, founder of the hottest news project from India, the EPNS, Arjun from Matic Network. I'm sure you guys have used Matic at some level. Aniket, if you've used Matic, I'm quite sure that you've also used Biconomy, which he is co-founded, and Ganesh, which again has somehow who's the founder of Covalent, would have, and some of you here I know have participated in the most recent challenge in India. So these are the people behind all of these interesting cutting edge tech products that we have interacted with, either at a hackathon or in the startup that we are building right now. And the point of this panel discussion is going to be about how blockchains are used in real world. I think at the back of this pitch session, it was quite interesting to see that we were building data unions for crop, for identifying crop diseases. We were building data unions for stopping plagiarism in, for content creators, and this was always the vision that a decentralized world had, and it is quite nice to see them at these experimental stages. And I hope that some of you go on to build these things, full time and have millions of users being benefited from using this product. Before we get into the panel itself, I'd like Henri to share a few words about the Streamr Data Challenge in general and the pitches that you heard today. So Henri, thank you so much for commissioning this in India, and some words from you would mean a lot to everybody participating here.
Thanks for arranging this, first of all, and thanks to everyone who participated in the hackathon, and especially congratulations to all the finalists. I guess we're on the verge of a big change with decentralization and moving towards self-sovereignty of value and data. And it was really cool to see that the teams were innovating around this area and applying the possibilities of this technology to local problems, to create new things. So I hope it was a sort of useful learning experience for everyone involved. I know that it was a useful learning experience for myself, so that was great. And sort of trying to put together how the whole decentralized stack of layer 0 technologies, blockchains in layer 1, as well as scalability solutions in layer 2 can sort of create things that have not been possible to exist before, right? That we can crowdsource data, we can have data monetization, we can solve actual problems that are unsolvable with centralized technologies. So really great to see progress in that direction. I've been pretty excited to follow the progress in this hackathon. So thanks again, everyone, and congratulations. And looking forward to who wins, because it's Matthew, up to Matthew and Marlene and the jury. So I'm off the hook on that one. So I can just spread love to all the teams there.
Awesome, thank you for that, Henri. So we'll get straight into the questions. So all of us, like we were discussing backstage, you're all building products that work on top or below a base layer chain. And when you talk about base layers, the most popular one that comes to mind is Ethereum. And no matter, and there have been changes after that. There are guys who are kind of growing super fast in this ecosystem, but Ethereum still somehow remains the go-to choice for developers to build and even companies to be built around that. So, if as players in this ecosystem for a while. What do you think are some of the reasons why Ethereum still is the go-to protocol for most players? I mean, Streamr currently works with the Ethereum chain. Harsh, you're building push notification services that are built on Ethereum. Matic Network is a layer 2 on Ethereum, and and Aniket, I guess the first, your first prototype was on Ethereum as well. Ganesh, your first, I think the thing that Covalent is most known for is having mapped Ethereum as a blockchain as such. So this seems to be an enigma of this space. So my question to the panel in general is, what is it about this particular platform that is bringing the entire ecosystem together? And maybe Aniket, as you are specifically addressing some of the core problems inherent to the Ethereum chain, with respect to building, I think it would be a good place to start from you. So why bet on Ethereum? That's the question.
Surely. Yeah, I think firstly, we are chain agnostic. We are not tied to Ethereum, but of course our first prototype and how we started was on Ethereum only. The primary reason is the network effects you get on Ethereum. The sort of developer activity happening on Ethereum you don't see in any other chain. And it is one of the oldest platform out there in the space. So definitely, you have a long history of development happening over there. And support of developers and support of community you get. On Ethereum, it's something impeccable and you don't see in other chains. The other reasons also in terms of, the entire DeFi wave that sort of generated, it was all sort of core Ethereum developers that started it. So the way I see it is most of the innovation is currently starts off with Ethereum, and then the problems that originates after the innovation happen, other layers kind of try to solve it. And this is one of the ways how Matic's trying to address problem with Ethereum is the scalability issue and other issues associated with it. So yeah, these are sort of the primary reasons we see most of the developer activity happening on Ethereum, and yeah, it has huge network of developers and huge support of community that attracts any developer in the space to bet on Ethereum to begin with.
Ganesh, you're probably sitting on a lot of chain data from Ethereum as well as other chains that you're looking at right now. What are some of the things that stand out to you even today on say, things on the activity within the Ethereum chain itself, specific to maybe applications that are being built on top of it?
I would say Ethereum is more than just a technology. Ethereum is an idea. And what the other chains are trying to bring in is usually a technological solution to a technological problem. But it's very difficult to replicate the community. And this is eye-opening if you go to any of the ETH events. I was at ETH Denver last year, and there were 3,000 hackers who flew into Denver from all over the globe and were hacking on open source or participating in the hackathon. Now, that is an idea that you cannot capture, that you cannot buy, that you cannot instrument. It cannot come from a P&L on a marketing budget. So I think that is the most important thing about Ethereum that is very hard to replicate. You can beat Ethereum on any of the technological dimensions, but because Ethereum is an idea, the community itself is not attached to one singular technological solution to a technological problem. Be it roll-ups or be it any kind of scaling technology, they'll just adopt it and the Ethereum community will move on. So that is why it's difficult to break through on what Ethereum actually means. In terms of data, so we index about half a dozen chains out there, mostly EVM compatible chains, which is the Ethereum virtual machine, which seems to be the standard today. So Matic and Scale and Avalanche and Binance Smart Chain, they're all EVM based chains. The key thing here is that I think the EVM is doing, or Ethereum's implementation of the EVM is doing the best it can. And if you tweak any single parameter on the EVM, you're actually discounting some other dimension that is actually important. So you could scale back the decentralization. You could scale back the security. You could scale back the size and the hardware requirements. So for example, with BSC, it's basically an Ethereum machine, but with faster block times. But what is going to end up happening is a year from now, the state database is going to be so big that you need something like a heavy-duty machine to run or to participate in the blockchain securing the BSC network, which means it's going to reduce decentralization because you're not going to have hobby validators participating in the network. So I would say that's my take on what's happening in this space.
Interesting, Ganesh. So the reason I asked, start with Ethereum is that there are two chains of thoughts right now that seem to be permeating in this blockchain world. Go ground up and do everything that, solve for everything that Ethereum doesn't do well as a base layer, or build layers around established chains like Ethereum and solve for those specific problems. So in the case of Streamr, it's a broadcast tool for money in return for data. In the case of EPNS, it is a push notification service. In the case of Matic, which is a little more unique, is the building an entire layer two ecosystem on top of it. So problems of transaction fees and scale are solved for. What would you say the other, barring from what's on this panel, what would you say the other opportunities are for anyone trying to build a layered solution as opposed to a ground up solution? So Henri, if you would like to kind of take that would be a good place to start.
Yeah, I mean, to answer that question, we need to look at the sort of, I guess, basic principles or the big picture of Web3, I guess. So okay, we have blockchains, we have these layer zeros, we have everything that comes with it. And the whole of Web3 is sort of larger than just Ethereum or larger than just blockchains per se. So what I think will sort of happen in the long term is that all of the different services that are available on traditional Web2 cloud stacks, like you have computing, you have storage, you have all kind of data infrastructure, you can have identity services. This kind of things will be replaced with decentralized counterparts, or sort of like, services that appear a little bit similar than the cloud services that we're used to in Web 2, but are actually decentralized, self-sovereign, possibly more fair or more scalable or cheaper or something like this. And for application developers, these create new opportunities and also ways to do the same in a fairer and more scalable or more robust or more secure or more private way. And I think the opportunities in building up these services are very big still at the moment. I think it's super early days still, and we're only seeing some of these services that could be decentralized and replaced happening. Blockchains sort of add a new thing that was not possible before in the centralized stack, obviously, for transferring value or having this like very strongly validated state information that you couldn't really have before. But I think it's important to also look at the sort of big picture and what opportunities lie there. But I think one opportunity, in addition to building the ground layer, is to think about application and how to actually apply these things into real world problems. And for in that space, like the opportunities, it's a totally blue ocean. So definitely think how to, as advice to developers, like definitely think how can this be applied to the things that you guys are interested in or have experience with. Go and make the match, and something beautiful can emerge from that.
Arjun, kind of moving back to you, right? Matic itself has kind of gone through this entire change where they moved from being a layer 2 plasma POS chain to much more than that in the form of Polygon. Was that kind of driven with a similar kind of thought? Is it coming from a place of solving more problems than just the issues of scalability and transactions? If you could talk a little bit on that, it would be a good way for us to digest as to what the other opportunities are that are out there for the taking.
Sure, definitely, and I completely agree with Henri, right? That essentially, you see, all forms of technology, whether it's blockchain or whatever it is, exist to solve a problem, right? So if you can understand what the problems are, working backwards, it becomes clear the kind of technology you need to have in place. So, for example, when we talk about decentralized and distributed technology, it seeks to solve a particular problem which centralized systems are not able to solve. Right, where we've seen throughout the world, not just with governments, with financial systems, that centralization of power leads to inevitable problems which are bad for society in general. And that's kind of where we felt, okay, a decentralized way of thinking maybe the answer. Similarly, when we were at Matic, for example, in 2017, when we were founded, the prevailing thought process at that time around scaling, at least of Ethereum, was using plasma technology. But over a period of time, we've seen now there are other approaches, optimistic rollups, ZK rollups, and frankly, there might be some in the future as well, something different like that. So that's kind of where we realized that if I would talk about Ethereum, so we, I don't know if this is a good thing to say, but we, see ourselves as Ethereum maximalists, and a term which leads to flame wars on Twitter, but I would say that. And for us, when we looked at what the future will hold, we realized that it's not going to be. See, the future is never going to be this one all-conquering technology which will solve all the problems. It's not going to be like that. So even within scaling, right? I mean, forget about multi-blockchains first. Even within scaling, it will be a multi-chain kind of solution where there are different technologies. Each technology inevitably has their own trade-offs, advantages, disadvantages. And as an infrastructure provider like us, what we felt is that it's our responsibility to give the developer the maximum amount of flexibility. So instead of me going out there and telling you that use this technology, it is the best, it will solve all your problems, rather than you give all the options to the developer. And the developer decides, because he knows the problem he's trying to solve and he knows it better than you. So he decides, okay, you know what? For me, I should use optimistic rollup, so I'll use a OR chain. Somebody might feel, okay, ZK rollup chain is better for me. Somebody might say, okay, Plasma POS works great for me. I want to do something NFTs, etc. Just scales really well to that problem. Or let's say you want to spawn your own chain, right? So this is kind of what we feel, and that's kind of what I also see maybe with the future of blockchain. Now here, of course, there are interesting ways you can look at what the future will hold based on the data you have, but I have a theory on that as well, right? So what we felt and why we went with Ethereum and then sort of developed a scaling layer. To be honest, when we started, we also had this mindset for all chains, we might be a generalized scaling layer, etc. But we stuck to Ethereum because what we felt is that Ethereum was the most diverse ecosystem. It had the largest number of developers. It's been in existence for a long period of time. So also, you know who the founder is. So it's big plus. So in those kind of, when we looked at all of these other different factors, we kind of realized that, okay, you know what, this community, I think, represents what we feel would be an ideal kind of blockchain community, and equal number of developers, non-developers, token holders, things like that. And this seems to be a good bet for us. It's kind of how we decided it. Now, what we're seeing in the world these days is this multi-chain concept, right? Everybody wants to be multi-chain, right? Whether it's even in scaling solutions, they want to be multi-chain, multi-scaling solutions. So, which is great, but what will happen, what we're also seeing is that there are these bridges being built, right, with all these different other ecosystems, whether it's EOS, whether it is, for example, even with Polkadot or with Near, they will eventually be built for Cardano as well once they have smart contracts. And when this happens, right, what will happen is all of these chains will now be connected to each other. So now liquidity, assets, whatever have you, can flow from all of these different chains to each other, right? So you essentially have islands right now with their own communities. All of these communities are now connected. So over a period of time, like, all of these communities will eventually coalesce to this one solution which they feel solves, or to this one community which they feel solves for the maximum number of solutions or suits them the best, right? So it's like a form of what I say natural selection, where eventually you have islands. Now people are traveling all across these different islands, and then they go to these different communities, experience all of them, and they realize, you know what, this one community seems to be the best in terms of whatever they're looking for, and usually the word here is composability, with the maximum number of things they could do and things like that. We feel the future bet is Ethereum, which is why sort of we've designed our system that way. So this is kind of what I see. There are many multiple chains, which is great. There are multiple scaling solutions, that's amazing. But once you connect all of these together, the community will coalesce and tell you what the answer is. So the community will automatically, as a whole, like a form of swarm intelligence, find the natural answer, which it is seeking today. And we feel, again, what we feel is the answer to that is Ethereum. So that's kind of how I feel the future is going to play out. And that kind of, so now you have that as a goalpost. You can now work backwards. And now all the problems and the solutions you need to have are pretty clear. So this will tell you a very clear idea to how we think about the problems we need to solve. So yeah.
Understood. So this is a great segue into the next questions that I had, and I want to bring in Harsh on this. That we speak in communities, we're looking at people building for this space, but it's now also a question of transcendence. That seems to be what everybody wants to do. How does this move out from a small population of 100 million people all over the world have some level interacted with this technology to what it can truly work on? So Harsh, Ganesh, and Aniket, this question mainly pertinent to you guys, but as in, what does a decentralized internet look like, and what does it primarily look like? For example, Harsh, the reason I bring you into this is that you've taken something that is native to the centralized world and you brought it to to a decentralized space in the form of push notifications, right? And you probably have a vision for how this product interacts with an entire decentralized internet. So what does that look like when, say, this concept realizes its potential?
Sure. So Raghu, the reason for push notifications or for meta transactions or layer 2 is actually very simple. Innovation has been done. Blockchain has established itself as a very, very good alternative to Web2 services. But Web2 services, they have a plethora of tools that enables user experience, and that enables technology, invisibility of technology. And one of the experience of Web 2.0, which we all love, is services communicating to the user. So at this point of time, whatever happens, the services come to the user in Web 2.0. Like for example, this event, it was driven by a notification. WhatsApp calls are driven by notification. Even your FaceTime calls, your Twitter status, your Amazon delivery, your Venmo payments, everything is driven by services coming to the user. And when you come to Web 3.0, a lot of blockchain people, they went for scalability, improvement of scalability. They went for speed. They went for security. And when we started this project, we realized that Polygon has already solved the scalability issue. Meta transaction, Biconomy is doing it really, really well. When you talk about data, you have Ganesh, who is an expert in collating all that data. And of course, Henri and Streamr, it just blows my mind that right now you have a technology that can open up real-time communication, and that is exactly what we want to do with push notification. It's one part of the puzzle, or the missing part of the puzzle, that enables people to finally have the same experience, or better experience than what they are having on Web 2.0. So that was the reason, and that's the reason for push notifications, to finally move out from centralized people and how Apple and Google have dominated that industry. We thought that for Web 3.0, maybe we can Ethereum push notification service. So that's the reason for the push notification.
Makes a lot of sense. Ganesh, to kind of bring you in on this, what is your view on a decentralized internet? Is it something that we'll realize in the next 10 years? Or and I know that a lot of the conversations here is contrary to your vision of how this decentralized web will play out. But what is it for you? And does this play out over the next 10 years? Or are we really far away from seeing a completely decentralized internet?
So, if you look at how technology gets adopted, it's always in cycles. And there's this phrase, slowly and then suddenly. And there's a book called The Switch, which basically tells you how things are getting adopted. And what's been interesting over the last 200 years is that these technological cycles have been increasing and compressing. So if you look at the adoption of the telephone as opposed to the adoption of the internet, to social media platforms like Facebook, to whatever the latest is, the cycles are compressing. So decentralization, I think, is a natural place to sit. If you even look back to India from 500 years ago, it was a decentralized place, lots of small pockets, lots of small kingdoms. So I think that is the natural state of affairs. The centralized thing has natural scaling limits. The top-down approach, it just doesn't work. Even for a small country like Canada, which is where I reside, We are so far from the central powers that, I sometimes we feel here in British Columbia that the federal government is not playing enough of a role. I know the same in India. People in the south feel that the decisions made in Delhi are not pertinent to the people. It's not even relevant to the people in the south. So I think that's going to happen. Now, where Covalent really sits down is actually in line with what Arjun says, this multi-chain and then this hybrid model of centralized, decentralized coexisting for a very long period of time. And that is where our background and our experience comes from. In fact, the reason we called our project Covalent is after covalent bonds in chemistry, where we are binding multiple types of systems, centralized, decentralized. And if you look at the database market, you have multiple databases that all specialize in a certain facet. So be it key value stores or graph databases or time series databases, and they're all multi-billion-dollar markets, right? They all have carved out their own niches. These are massive niches. So I would say it's going to be the same for these decentralized systems. And people are free, developers are free to pick what they want. If they want maximum security, then yeah, sure, go for Ethereum. If you want to scale back on the security and go for something that's faster, sure, pick BSC. If you want to have a database, pick a database. Because at the end of the day, a blockchain is a database. It's a store of data. It's a system of record. So what the use case and what the application and what the transaction fees are dictates what gets adopted. So I would say there are certain pockets of adoption which is going to be accelerated because of decentralization. Some pockets where it's not very clear, but the market will decide what picks up and what's left behind.
I had go on, Harsh, you wanted to add?
Yeah, so I actually have a different take on it. I see different blockchains coming up and they're going to solve different things. I'm not a ETH maximalist. I totally love ETH, but I love BTC as well. So there's that. And yeah, I see BTC going into a store of online value. And I see ETH going into, programmable money. And I see DeFi, NFT, and, a lot of projects sticking to ETH. But I also see there will be, I also see a time where, there will be different chains that will solve different problems. So I see it more like internet. So, we cannot just live with HTTPS or SMTP. SMTP is mail, or, FTP, which is file transfer protocol. For the internet to come and work together, it needs all of these things to work together and work in tandem with each other. So, while I see Ethereum to, make sure that, while I see Ethereum to become HTTPS for the entire internet and everyone using it, I also see people going to use email or, and that means, other chains for some other aspect. So, yeah.
I had a question for Aniket from the developer side of things for this, for decentralized tech, but I am moving to the last set of questions that I have. Henri, you've collaborated as Streamr with Bosch and a bunch of other, centralized companies that are looking at decentralized solutions. My question was, do you see the two of them coexisting with each other? And would you even so far as predict some of these larger tech giants decentralizing parts of their business and tech to Ganesh, if you could add to that would be
sure. It's a massive paradigm shift, and most big companies will not be agile enough to sort of reinvent themselves, nor do they currently feel any need to do so, right? Like they've all found a business model that works brilliantly at the moment, and they're making money left and right, and they'll stick to it until the end of time. And now some enterprises, however, will venture to the crypto island. They'll come from mainland and they'll come as tourists to the crypto island, and they're going to incorporate some learnings to their offerings. And that's great. But to be honest, I think the new wave of game changers will sort of be native to the crypto island, like born and raised there, like the DeFi ecosystems that we're seeing today, and so on and so on. So it will only, the pace of innovation will only accelerate. And definitely these things will coexist for a very long time, right? But I think the direction, the tectonic plates of crypto island and mainland, they will eventually crash into each other, and then we're going to be the same land mass, right? But it will happen over time, and in the meanwhile, both will develop their own economies. It's amazing how crypto island has created its own financial system, its own governance system, its own stack of technologies, its own identity systems. And so yeah, there's plenty to see on the crypto island for tourists from mainland, but they need to learn how to speak the language of crypto island to make use of that.
That's really interesting. So, and this is where I want to bring in Aniket as well, right? Like, so the question, Aniket, was how do these two things kind of coexist, right? Crypto and the real world. And do you see the real world kind of becoming more like crypto in the time to come? I think Aniket's having some connectivity issues. Ganesh, that was for you as well. Yeah. You're on mute.
So this is a great question, and going back to the technology waves and the way you think about even how the internet was adopted, it was the internet native companies being built, and then basically all the off-chain or offline stuff was being replicated in the internet world. So if you look at the FinTech 1.0, it was existing banking system that was just replicated. So I would say it's the digitization of analog services. So if you have an invoice, it's a digital invoicing system, but it's still an analog process on the back end. You just have a PDF now. It's not truly natively digital. So it's going to be a hybrid model. So we're going to be copying models from the centralized world to the decentralized world for sure. We're going to replicate all kinds of things. But what is the most interesting thing are these decentralized native patterns and paradigms, which will take time. It's not clear what that will be. So an example of a decentralized native project or a decentralized native paradigm that's picking steam is the pool together, for example. Pool together is something that you can never replicate in a traditional world. You have the chit funds and all that stuff, but there's a tremendous amount of trust on a centralized provider. So that's an example of innovation that is very hard to marquee, very hard to fund, very hard to identify and go after. So I would say this is a multi-decade. Even in the fintech world, you had the fintech 1.0, fintech 2.0, and the fintech 3.0 is DeFi, I would say, where the core is being rebuilt from the ground up. So with fintech 1.0, just the online banks. The fintech 2.0 are internet native money transfers. So I would say it's in waves, but it's not clear how long that is. That 2 years away? Is that 5 years away, or is it 10 years away? It's not clear. But yeah, it's just going to be in multiple waves.
Got it. So, kind of coming to the last question then, don't mind the dark background, it's just power going off and coming back on every now and then. But, my last question is, and we could kind of get each and everyone's views on this. As an app developer today, and I'm solving for a problem, I perhaps want to make this a startup and, go out and make a living on this. How much of the traditional world am I to adopt, and how can I? Is it wise to ignore the decentralized movement that is happening in solving for Web 2.0 problems starting today? And Arjun, I guess, given that Matic already powers so many, and congratulations on the recent Twitter news. The question is, can application developers or can project developers continue to build the same centralized way in the time to come? And is it wise to do so? Of course they can, but is it wise to do so? And if somebody is solving for, say, a fintech problem today, what is your advice to them from somebody who sits on this side of the world? The crypto side of the world.
So I think it really comes down to the problem you're trying to solve. So I don't think it's a question of whether it should be decentralized, decentralized. It really comes down to the problem you're trying to solve. There are certain, so like as we've seen in blockchain as well, right? That blockchain technology is uniquely suited to solve a certain set of problems, but it's also completely useless when it comes to some other problems, right? So it really comes down to what you're trying to solve. But to the other interesting point which you mentioned, that can you afford to ignore this anymore? I don't think that is a wise idea as well. We've already seen all the sort of, you could say, the behemoths of industry now, being whether it's technology companies like Tesla or whether it's investment companies like BlackRock, and now seriously looking into blockchain technology, and they all have started the same way all of us did, right? Which is the cryptocurrency, right? And then you sort of go down that rabbit hole, and then you sort of start to discover 100 different things. So I think with that movement and with mainstream interest and you could say investor money coming into this sort of coming into decentralized technology, I think having that mindset that this is just a fad and nobody really knows how Bitcoin works or things like that, and having that kind of mindset, I think is something which is not going to work out well in the future. Like what we've seen today, whether you're any kind of company, whether you're a CEO or whether you're an employee, being a technology laggard is a very dangerous thing. And that is what can be bad, not just for you, for your company, but even for your career. So I think having that open mind and now looking at sort of, the way the world is moving, the way like I always say, if you want to figure out, technology, just find out where the money's going, follow the money. And you'll begin to see, all the different areas where, people are thinking about investing and the new technologies of the future. And if you follow the money, you'll see that blockchain is definitely something which is important for the future. At the same time, I would still say that even in 2021, you're still an early adopter. And that's what I tell everyone, that, even in its heyday, Ethereum did 1.6 million transactions in a day. I think Visa or MasterCard probably do that in a few minutes. So we are far away from mass adoption. There's so many different problems still have to be solved. So I think for any newbie who's looking into fintech, if they look into blockchain technology, it would be, you will find maybe 100 different problems which you probably won't find in the centralized economy. And that's what I keep telling people, that this is a great place to come and get started. It's still day one of blockchain technology, and we need the smartest and the brightest minds to come into sort of before the blockchain technology and start doing interesting things, start building for the future. So I feel that I would just tell anyone that just look into it, give it some time, and that's what I tell everybody. My friends who are also looking into startups, follow this very simple strategy that basically for 4 days, just read only about blockchain, follow only blockchain on Twitter, and read only about just for 4 days, just 4 days of your life. Just do that for 4 days, right? And then you can decide whether you want to do it or not. But if you can give yourself a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and just read about this, then, trust me, you want to find an amazing world out there. And this has been my sort of conversion strategy, a messiah conversion strategy, the 4-day challenge. And, so it's worked out really well. So you can try it as well. With the obvious, I want to try it with my parents next. So I hope that works out well. But yeah, this is how it is. You can't ignore this anymore. There's so much media interest, so many problems to be solved, so much money to be raised, and yeah, I think for any young team, experienced or inexperienced looking to do this, I think this is a great place. And we need, of course, like I said, problem solvers to come in. So yeah.
Got it. Harsh, as somebody who's kind of an example today for other startups from India to go ahead and build interesting products, your thoughts on the same. Is this something that we can afford to ignore anymore? And somebody solving for real world issues should we start thinking blockchain first?
Got it. So Raghu, by the way, you were asking from a biased person whether they want to build on decentralized things or not. But one thing I would like to add is, Arjun put it quite nicely. There are things on Web 2 that requires moving to Web 3.0 and, requires innovation. And there are things that, maybe for this time, at this current moment, Web 2 is good. When you are going over here, I would tell you about Ethereum, or, one of the things that make Ethereum is a community. Whenever you are there, even if you ask for help, or even if you say that, I'm having problem understanding this concept or building this project, you won't get one hand, you will get 100 hands helping you out. And these hands are coming from people who have defined Ethereum. So you might get Vitalik to help you out. You might get Mariano Ponti to help you out. You will get so many people, not only Web3 leaders, but community and developers alike, that will help you out build and understand. And that is where the 4-day challenge comes really effective. By the end of day 4, you will totally love the community, and you will not really want to go back to Web 2.0. So that's one thing. I would say that just try to come up with a concept and ask the community about it. You will get so much help and so much love just because you're building something. And that's something, Web 2, because it has become so large, that's something you will not find on Web 2.0. And that's the quality of Ethereum, the community, and the way they try to make sure that everybody is welcomed. That's the reason, why Ethereum is not going to go anywhere. It's not about the technology. It's more about how you behave in a country together, or, what culture are you establishing. So yeah, just go for it. Any idea you have, just try to ask for help. Just try to read about it, and you will get a lot of attention and a lot of love. So yeah.
Nice. Before we go to Ganesh, I'm going to try Aniket one more time. Are you able to speak?
Yeah, sorry. I think I was having trouble with some internet issues, but maybe my video will be off, but I hope you guys can hear me now.
Yeah, loud and clear. Yeah, so just final thoughts on, building solutions today. Do you, should more developers start to think blockchain first?
I think absolutely. Again, adding on to what Harsh said, that the entire concept of community and it doesn't exist in Web 2, right? Like any problem, you cannot reach out to any CEO of any company and he just answers you. It takes ages for that to happen on a Web 2 sort of a platform. But the beauty of how you can reach out to any founder, any community right away, and how many people help you is something commendable and something you only see in what emerging tech like blockchain provides. I've been attending Ethereum, DevCons from 2016, and sort of developers I'm seeing increasing on a yearly basis. It's like, I think, exponential growth happening over there as well. Last year itself, I think it was around 3K to 4K developers happening. So there's a lot of interest for a lot of new, I'll say, like real world problems to be solved via blockchain. And this is something that excites if any developer to make that happen. And again, like the community it is having, and sort of the investor support that Ethereum sort of provides. I don't think so any other blockchain provides at this point of time. So Ethereum is definitely here to stay, and we will definitely see like more and more developers, building for the real world problems on Ethereum.
Got it. Ganesh and Henri will kind of take quick thoughts about this from you, and we can conclude the panel after that. So, Ganesh, blockchain first or Web 2 first for anyone building, say, specifically a financial product today?
It depends on the developer's mindset. If they're going for the traditional venture funded, where you need to prove that there's a market and the service addressable market and total addressable market, I would say Web 2 is still very attractive. There's a lot of capital waiting to fund projects like that, where the use cases are clear, the markets are clear, and the spend in the ecosystems are clear. In Web3, it's not clear what these things are. If you look at the number of products out there that are profitable or have any kind of revenue generating function, it's less than 50 in the entire Web3 space. So it really depends on what scale you want to hit. And I would say if you're building a brand new Web2 kind of ecosystem, you definitely want to adopt the mindset of Web3, where it's decentralization, it's communities, it's ownership economy. That is definitely where the mindset is changing. You can see a lot more traditional people are talking about NFTs and all of this stuff. So I would say definitely keep in mind what route you want to take. If you want to just experiment, you want to take on a pre-seed capital and then experiment for the next 6 months to a year, then you can play with the Web3 for sure. And so if you look at the approach that Covalent took, it was a different approach. We bootstrapped the company for the first 2.5 years, and we became profitable. So we took a very different approach before taking external capital to scale. And now we have over 100 customers who are being very successful. So we bring a Web2 style adoption cycle to Web3. So yeah, it really depends on the developer, their mindset, how long they're committed, where they want to see this, and if they have a personal agenda. I have a personal agenda. For me, none of these TAM and all that stuff, it doesn't really matter. I just want to build. So I think it really depends on the developer.
That's the first time I've heard that, actually, because usually they say it depends on the problem or depends on the market. You're the first person who's kind of told me it depends on the developer and what they want to do, which is quite an interesting perspective. Henri, I think the solution that you build, that you're building right now, is kind of pitted against the foundational business model of the internet, and someone looking at advertising, but today there is a way to monetize that in a decentralized way. Your advice for someone building a web product today, and is it early, is it time, or are they going to be left behind if they don't adopt Web3 kind of Web3 tech? So I mean, just your perspective, and then
it's exactly the right time. I think what Arjun said before was like a very important strategic angle, that you need to go somewhere where you can get sort of ahead of the curve, where you can create something unique, somewhere that hasn't been saturated with ideas already for many years. And you have to go there when things are still like a little bit crappy. Sorry to say, but this is the truth. Like, libraries have bugs, documentation is non-existent or outdated, things are still sort of unfinished and being built. If everything's ready and polished when you arrive, then that you're too late. You're probably not the first one to build a particular thing. So you just have to sort of go with it and tolerate the sort of incompleteness of the space. And that's exactly the right time to get there. And for anyone who's sort of seeking to start a company or building this space, just stay curious, do the things that you like and that you're interested in. Many people warn how entrepreneurs do such a lot of work, long hours and weekends, and it's true. But if you're really if you love and you're excited about what you're doing, then it sort of feels more like a hobby instead of work. So it makes it more tolerable. And yeah, I guess a lot of people also talk about like success and money and that kind of things, and become entrepreneurs and start companies for that reason. But I think it should be understood that success is like a consequence. It's not a goal. It's a consequence of seeing an opportunity, building something that you felt was important and needed to be built, and of course, like being in the right place at the right time, I guess. So much of it is for sure luck. But I think the blockchain space, Ethereum space, decentralized space is a very good point to, very good place to start right at this moment.
And with that, thank you, gentlemen, for all your perspectives. I think I hope some of the finalists today go on and build their projects more seriously and take them to market. And, a part of that kind of is ignited today. One of the 5 projects is going to get, win a grant of $5,000 powered by Streamr. And, I hope that they take that and go ahead and build, a product of use in today's society. And I hope that this panel and their perspectives help them in probably forming those thoughts a little better. With that, gentlemen, please don't go anywhere. We're going to announce the winner, and it would be good if all of us can, congratulate them together. It would mean a lot to them. But I'm going to hand it over to my co-founder, Kavya.
I just have one thing, Raghu.
Yeah.
So just a word for the participants today. Covalent started as a hackathon project, and now we're we're a 25-person team and like have over 100 customers. So everything starts small. Everything starts as a little hack. Everything starts with writing that first line of code before you even have a name. So that's a word of inspiration. You're in for the journey, not the destination.
Yeah, I was thinking of something smart to say to close this up, but Ganesh, I can't top that. Thank you so much. Totally
all the best, guys. And to build on top of Ganesh, Ethereum push notification service also started from a hackathon.
Wow.
So yeah,
that is awesome. I'm going to leave it at that. I have nothing more to say. Kavya, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Kavya. Firstly, great panel. Really enjoyed listening to that one. I like the 4-day blockchain locking someone in there, because it's true. Like once you go into blockchain, I've never met anyone that's understood the ethos of crypto and decentralization and gone back out the exit door. It has never happened before. So yeah, that was really cool to hear you guys talk about that. Really interesting use cases in the top 5. Even though we can only pick one winner, please remember that you're the final 5 in hundreds. So we see the great potential in your team and in your use case. So thank you so much for your hard work, and we wish you the best in developing your project further. And please reach out to us for further assistance in building bigger and better data unions in the future. So without any further ado, the winning team is, I'm going to pronounce this terribly, but I'll try anyway, Manibar for the Vidara project. So congratulations. So,
Congratulations.
If I'm not wrong, Atmanirbhar means self-reliant, and their project was basically helping creators, make helping creators make the most out of what they make. So, Rishikesh, nicely done, man. I think you should come on camera and just pose for a quick photo.
Waiting for that. There are 3 teammates. Should I name them? The first one is Athara Paliwal. Oh, all right.
I can also drop off. It's time to put these guys into the spotlight. Congrats, Rishi.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Congrats, man. Thank you so much.
Feel free to reach out to us if we can enter the spotlight.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hey, Arjun, they were built on Matic, just saying.
The next one should be Yash Roy and Ritul Deshmukh. Yash Roy and Ritul Deshmukh. He might be facing some bandwidth issues. Yes. All right. All right. Thank you so much. It was very cool working for this hackathon. Got to learn a lot.
Congratulations, guys. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was great to see a project integrate with IPFS, with Matic/Polygon, with the Streamr network, with data unions framework. We really see that sort of composability as the future direction of all these kind of new data economies emerging, but to have like a little piece of everything and create something totally new and emergent. So yeah, really grateful that you came onto the hackathon and you made something wonderful. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yes, and we would be more happy if we would be able to bring this product to the market soon.
Yeah.
It's a great example of what we were talking in the panel, how the sort of different blockchain and non-blockchain services can replace the layers that we're used to seeing in the Web2 applications. Like you can use IPFS for storage, you can use the blockchain for value transfers, you can use Streamr for data. And suddenly you have these replacements existing, and you can build like very like full applications, not just the early dApps were just like front ends that we're calling a blockchain under the hood, right? But now you can build like great user experience, you can build complicated apps that have many sides to them that like almost walk and talk like a Web2 application, but actually, the surprise, the proof is in the pudding that it's actually built on Web3 technologies, and that's awesome.
Right. All right. I think we can close this session off. Congratulations, guys, and we will get in touch with you guys soon. And we will get in touch with the top 5 teams. We have something in store for you guys anyway. So.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.